Okay, guys, now our next subject in this chapter, and that is in regards to the retail inventory method. The retail inventory method. Okay, first of all, let's realize that a retailer has certain unique challenges in accounting for their inventory. First of all, they have a heck of a lot of it, and it can be very impractical as far as trying to keep track of the decline in the market value and allocating transportation costs and all these different factors in regards to their large amount of inventory. So one thing that they can do is they can utilize what is called the retail inventory method. And they can compile the inventories actually at retail prices. Let me say that again. They can keep track of their inventory at retail prices. And then what they can do, if there's a predictable relationship between the cost and that retailer price, they can use that formula then to convert their inventory from retail prices to cost, which is, we know on the incomes, or we know on the balance sheet rather, it needs to be listed at cost. But if there is this predictable relationship, they can go ahead and keep track of their inventory at retail prices, and then when need be, convert it to cost. Okay? Now, to use this method, there's three things that a retailer must keep a record of. First of all, they need to keep track of the total cost and the total retail value of goods purchased. And both these, goods, total cost and retail value of goods purchased. They also need to keep track of the total cost and total retail value of the goods available for sale. And then they also need to keep track of their total sales for the period. Okay? Now, this method is used a lot for interim reporting, kind of like the gross profit method that we talked about before. Okay, and one of the huge advantages of this method is that you can approximate your ending inventory and know what your inventory balance is for perhaps interim reporting without doing a physical count. Okay, now that doesn't mean retailers never make physical counts, okay, because different things can happen to inventory in regards to damage or theft. But for interim reporting, you can give a value of ending inventory without doing a complete physical count each quarter or whatever. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, whoops, there's the notes that I just said. Again, most retailers will take a physical count because there's other things that can happen, and this is used a lot for interim reporting. Okay, and let me elaborate just one more aspect of this. It actually expedites the physical count of inventory, as when you have people going through and actually counting the inventory and keeping track of its value, they can just record the retail price of the inventory, which will be the price that's marked for consumers or for the ultimate customer on the inventory. And then we'll just convert that amount to cost. Okay? All right, let's take a look at how we're going to do this. And then we're going to do an example. Okay. Okay, the step one is you want to keep track of your goods available for sale at retail, and you want to know your net sales at retail. Okay, if you know your goods available for sale at retail and you subtract your sales at retail, you'll get your ending inventory at retail. Okay, that is just the bottom part of that relationship that we have talked about before. Okay, and we'll see this when we do an example. Okay, the next thing that you want to know is you want to be able to take your goods available for sale at cost divided by your goods available for sale at retail, and that gives you that cost to retail ratio that you're going to need. Okay, then what you're going to do is take that cost to retail ratio and times it or multiply it times your ending inventory at retail, and you will get your ending inventory thus at cost. Okay, let's take a look at an example here. Here is a situation. Let me kind of show this slowly to you. right, so it'll make more sense. Okay. Move the camera a little bit so you can see it. Okay. We know that the beginning inventory plus the cost of goods purchased equals the goods available for sale, and we can certainly keep track of that at cost. However, we could also, if we wanted to, keep track of the beginning inventory at retail value and the cost of goods purchased at retail value, and thus that would give us the goods available for sale at retail value. All right. Now what we could do is divide these two numbers by each other, and we get the cost to retail amount, or ratio, or whatever you want to call it. 60 divided by 100 is 60%. That's the cost to retail ratio. Well, what do we utilize that for? Well, I told you that the third thing that we need to keep track of is net sales at retail. If we subtract that from goods available for sale at retail, we're going to get ending inventory at retail, which we would then take times this cost to retail ratio that we calculated above, and we would get the estimated ending inventory at cost. Okay? Does that make sense? Let's do another example. Okay? We're going to use the retail method and the following data to estimate the cost of ending inventory. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Let me get ready to do it. Okay, so what do we have here? Well, we have those pieces of information, those three pieces of information that I told you that we need. We have our beginning inventory at cost and retail. We have our purchases at cost and retail, and we have our sales. Okay, so let's go ahead and list this out. Okay, we have our, let's say at cost right here, at retail right there. So our beginning inventory at cost and at retail is $324,000 and $530,000. Okay. What are our purchases? Well, our purchases at cost, $195,000. Purchases at retail, $335,000. So now we add those up. That's $519,000. And what is that? That is goods available for sale. Okay, $519,000. If we add these two up, we get $865,000. Okay? All right. So now let's figure out our cost to retail ratio. Well, we're going to take that number divided by that number. So we're going to get $519,000 divided by $865,000. Okay? And that will equal, let me get out my calculator. That equals a nice ratio of 60%. Okay? So what are we going to do with that? Well, beginning inventory plus purchases equals goods available for sale at retail. Now what we can deduct is the, let me call that different. We can deduct sales at retail. Do we know our sales at retail amount? Yeah, we do. It's $320,000. Okay? We get to deduct our sales at retail, and that equals ending inventory once again at retail. So 865 minus 320 is 545. Is that right? Yes. Okay. That is our ending inventory at retail. But we need to know ending inventory at cost, don't we? Okay, for our financials. So we need to know ending inventory at cost. So we're going to take that cost ratio, take it times 545,000, and that does equal our answer of $327,000. Okay? Does that make sense? I think it's one of those things that when you actually do it, it's not as confusing as perhaps trying to explain it. Okay? But what you're really realizing now is that this relationship of beginning inventory, plus purchases minus cost of goods sold equals ending inventory. This is true if all these values are at retail, and it's also true if all these values are at cost. Okay, and that's kind of what you see going on here. Okay, I have some homework questions for you to do on a handout. I will tell you, I think your book goes way deeper in this than I want to go. It talks about markups and markdowns and markdown cancellations and markup cancellations. Don't worry about all that. Just look at what we have done here. Okay, thank you.